Welcome to Mind Shift Power Podcast, a show for teenagers and the adults who work with them, where we have raw and honest conversations. I'm your host, Fatima Bey, the Mind Shifter. And welcome. Thank you, everyone, for joining our show today. So today we have on a special guest on, Mario Johnson, aka DJ Hollywood, out of Albany, New York, and he is the founder of More Music, Less Violence. How are you today, DJ Hollywood?
I am well. I am well. I'm super blessed, man. And yeah, thank you for having me as a guest on your podcast.
I'm glad to have you, and I'm hoping that you're an inspiration for the youth listening. So, tell us about DJ Hollywood. Who are you? What do you do?
Yes, that is a very, very good question, and could be a very long-winded one. But to summarize it up in intro form, I would say I am a young black man and entrepreneur from Brooklyn, New York, who currently lives in the Capital District, and I came out here to go to Hudson Valley Community College to play football, which I played sports the whole entire portion of my teen years, 18 and under, and then coming out to a college to play sports, kind of got like a plot twist and a hit of reality. So ended up you know, leaving the team and then ended up staying and then got my degree from there and then UAlbany. And then shortly after that became DJ Hollywood. And, the rest is kind of history.
Okay. So, you own you're the founder rather what of More Music, Less Violence. So, tell us about what that is and how it got started.
Yes, correct. So More Music, Less Violence is a community concert series that sparked up in 2020. We all know what happened during 2020, but specifically, in regards of the music realm, there were no performances happening. So from
Mm.
2018, which is the year I graduated UAlbany, to 2020, I curated, 15 independent artist showcases is what I call them. And with the pandemic, I wasn't allowed to, do, social gatherings were basically frowned upon. So when things kind of lightened up a little bit, I got the idea to do um, basically a pop up showcase. And if anyone that's listening knows Riverfront Park in Troy, we went there. They had, the poles had the outlet in them, and I seen an opportunity and called up some artists and legit we did a pop-up show, and that was in the realm of the George Floyd situation as well, and just violence. It was weird. It was weird because everyone was still inside, but there was still violence happening, and on the other side of things, music was also still coming out. So that's kind of what sparked the idea in regards of More Music, Less Violence, and then the feedback was great. So from there, ended up doing it, the legit way, not, just popping up in a park, because we definitely could have gotten in trouble because we didn't have any permits. But, it was all a peaceful environment. So, I wasn't really thinking about it too much. And we were only going to be there for an hour or two. So we did it the legit way in 2021 is where it officially, started. And then we started from cafes to, major stages to collaborating with, major organizations and, getting grants. So yeah, 3 years later, we are here, 6 shows deep, and yeah, ready to collab and network and build with whoever's down with the movement.
What have you found that there are any effects with what you're doing?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So one of our biggest things is bringing the community together, and um, it's it allows people a safe space and a moment of we call it like healing, where you can be in this space and you don't leave the same way you enter
Mm.
our shows. And I'm super big on that, and I have a famous saying is that the the name of the movement is, basically it's rhetorical. It's obvious, but the experience you get is unexplainable. So I could sit here and tell you, all the thousand things of how a more music less violence show will make you feel, but you entering the space and being in the atmosphere of a more music less violence event is something that, like I said, is unexplainable.
That sounds pretty awesome. Do you find that it has helped you connect with more youth?
Yeah, yeah. So actually with the shows, we there's no age limit on artists. So I've had 13-year-olds perform. I've had 10-year-olds
Mm,
perform.
really?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Even younger than that, which is crazy to think about it, because the 10-year-old that I'm talking about, she performed at the first one in 2021, which she was 8 there. And
Wow.
the news came through to that one. So we've done 6. The news has been to 5 of the 6.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, yeah, it's been great feedback. So at the first ever one, the news came through, kind of surprised us, did interviews with us and stuff. But within that clip, they said that her name is Ivela. They said that she stole the show, and truly she did. And she did a cover of a Lauren Hill song, and she blew
Oh,
the crowd away. So yeah, so 8 years old, 10, 13. We've had 15, 16-year-olds perform, 18, all the way up to my guy Doc Horton, man, who we're gonna be doing a more music less violence collab soon at Proctor's Theater. Doc is 65, and you would have no idea he's 65. He does
what?
like a he does Motown covers, and
Uh-huh.
he blows the crowd away. He actually opened up our gala, our first annual gala at the Capitol Rep in Albany this past January, at the top of the year for Martin Luther King weekend. And yeah, he's him and his band. So it's Doc Horton and the J Street Band, and they set the tone, and they set the roof on fire, and it was, it's a pleasure. But yeah, it'll definitely allows me to connect with youth, because I try to push, positive music and just, self-expression without the use of cursing. So that's another thing with the shows.
Mm,
um it's almost a standard for people. I tell people not to curse, and if you have a song that has cursing in it, I tell them to clean it up, but to also have
I
a
like
message
that.
within your music as well. So yeah, I love that it allows, me to share my platform and, share with other talent of all age levels.
Since we're talking about the importance of the influence of music, how important how important do you think music is, period?
That's a great question. I think music is super important because we take for granted, how much we listen to music. It's in commercials. It's in, we're on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and all that every day. And music is something that, Bob Marley said it. He said one thing about music: when it hits you, you feel no pain. And something like
Mm,
that is just so, it's universal. It's something that a person could never, hear a song before, and kind of, and two people just meet and kind of enjoy a moment with a song they both never heard of before. And
hmm.
yeah, it's just so much to it, and it's so powerful. And my on YouTube, my YouTube channel is It's More Than Music, because for a while I kind of wanted to frame that as the business is More Than Music LLC, but I wanted it to be specifically It's More Than Music, because legit, it's more than music. It's healing, it's emotions, it's therapy, um and it's an amazing thing what music can truly do for, for everyone, all ages as well.
So music brings people together. That's definitely true. Music is one of the few mediums that can bring people together who just otherwise might not be together. But does music do things for people on a deeper level?
Yeah, I think so. I think, even when I forgot what's the exact scenario, but they say, like when a woman's pregnant and you put like headphones, or like you play music around the
Hmm.
kids, in the womb, they'll like move around and stuff, and you'll get some type of feedback from that. So it's crazy that even an unborn child can feel, the energy and the frequencies of music. Um, and at the same time, it before, it was like rap or like singing, there was poetry, which rap and singing is almost poetry with a beat behind it,
Right. Yeah.
and yeah, I think it's definitely something that, we kind of underplay just because we have music, we have the access to music, but it's almost like back to like the pandemic. It's almost like someone taking away from you the opportunity to go outside and be around your loved ones. You're like, oh crap, like I didn't realize how much I actually enjoy, being around like my family. So,
Hmm.
if someone, and I ask this to people sometimes too. I'm like, what would you do? Would you take away your sight or would you take away your hearing? And people are like, oh man, like,
Oh.
like, yeah, right. And people are like, man, like I couldn't imagine not being able to. And it's funny because most people bring up music. They're like, I can't picture not being able to hear music. And then some
Yeah,
people
me
are like,
either.
people put sight into the play and they're like, yo, I'd rather, see where I'm going. Um, but yeah, it's something that, it's a very deep music is a very deep thing that I feel um doesn't get the full recognition it does, but I feel like
Hmm.
at the same time, if you know, you know.
I think music also affects our emotions, and that's not a minor detail
Hmm.
in my opinion, because we can listen to a song that sends us into a rage. The
Right,
song didn't create the rage, but it woke up the rage that was there.
right, right,
We
right,
can listen to music that makes us cry. The song didn't make you cry, but it woke up tears that were already needed to come out.
right,
There's music can make you inspired to do what you need to do because the inspiration was already sitting there. It just needed a boost. So I'm saying that for those who are listening, who think that your music program doesn't have an effect on your students, you're wrong. Because a lot of times when budgets get cut, music programs and other, what some would consider artistic programs get cut, and they shouldn't be. They are extremely important, and they have effects that we can't necessarily see through a test on paper, but they definitely have an effect in people's mindset. And I just wanted to point that out, as well.
I agree.
Now, I want to dive into this, and this is not really a segue. It's just changing the subject because it's because it's necessary. So, I want to point something out. So, you work full time right now, correct?
Yeah, yeah, 7 years, 7 years.
And what do you do full time?
I'm a full-time entrepreneur, so and that, like it goes back to like what I said in the intro. It's a very long-winded answer, but in regards to the entrepreneurship, there's me being a full-time DJ, professional DJ. Um, I also do content creation, so I make my own flyers. I'm doing my own design work. I create my business cards, all that stuff. Then it goes into me sometimes doing content for other people. Uh, Along with that, there's me doing interviews for my YouTube channel, even though it's not monetized as yet. It's something that has to be built upon. I've gotten paid to do interviews before. Typically, I don't charge people to do interviews because I know I'm still in the building phase. Um, Along with that, I do showcases as well. So I curate, shows and different events for people to attend to. And then my newest, baby in business is my photo booth. So I also own a photo booth as well, which is a good combo for when I do, private events. It's holiday season, so holiday parties, and specifically weddings as well. That's a big one. So, yeah, everything kind of falls under all the above. I also teach kids how to DJ as well, so that's another avenue, and maybe something I'm forgetting, but yeah, that's kind of like just a different um avenues and of revenue, and it's cool that it's basically all based around music and the arts, so I love it.
Okay. Now, I want to break down some of what you just said. Are so most of the things that you just mentioned, are you making money at most of them?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I would, yeah, literally majority, I would say 85, 90% of what I said. Yeah, there's some type of um reimbursement of time involved.
So the reason I'm pointing that out is we have a lot of teenagers listen to us right now who want to get into entrepreneurship, and I think it's important to point out different factors of entrepreneurship and not just say, "Yay, own your own business, be your own boss, make your own money, woo," and leave it there. I want to point out the fact that you're listening to a man who has his own business, but he does many things within that business to make all of the financial ends meet. Correct?
That is very, very true.
So he doesn't just DJ. Everything is related to the DJing as it should be, but he's doing more than one thing. So if you're looking to start a business of your own, just know that you might have to do several things with under one umbrella. I do that as well as the mind shifter. This podcast is just one branch of what I do. Um, and and I'm also a dual entrepreneur. so
Hmm.
so I have a different business that I do as well. So now you also have your more music, less violence. That is soon to be a nonprofit, correct?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. We're in the final stages of forming it into a nonprofit. Thought about it for a while in regards of what how I wanted to form that part of the of the umbrella. And Yeah, it felt right to go into the non for profit space, because I know we could connect with a lot more organizations who have a similar um purpose and mission statement as we do.
I think it's beautiful that you're taking your business skills and using it to also run a nonprofit.
Thank
And
you.
what I also want to point out is the fact that you're listening to DJ Hollywood. He has his own business in addition to the nonprofit. He's not trying to live off of his nonprofit. And I'm saying that because not just teenagers, but a lot of people will have a big dream and they jump too high, too hard, too fast, and they
Right.
jump into something without using any wisdom or planning.
Agreed. Agreed.
What advice do you have for those who are looking to start their own business, not just DJing, but start their own business, maybe related to your field, because every field has different nuances. What advice do you have for any youth that are looking to to become an entrepreneur like you?
Initially I would say that you so I have a thing called the PPP, which is, find your passion, find your purpose, and then figure out how you could, turn it into a paycheck. So that's the PPP. But what I would say is that you have to understand that basically you are your own boss as an entrepreneur, which there's pros and cons to that. So
Hmm.
I can like this past weekend, I made the executive decision to, you know, do 3 gigs in a day. Initially it was just only going to be two, but meanwhile the gig number two was happening. I got the opportunity to, for the offer for gig number three. So I had to make that decision for myself. There was no person to say, hey, go here, or don't go here. That decision was solely, dependent on me. And granted, I was tired, but I knew the benefits of going to event three and what that could do for, the business. um and in the same breath, now I know, okay, well, uh you know if the event ends at 2 a.m., now I have to pack up and go home. Now I'm probably going to sleep around 3 a.m. And now I got to think about what do I have to do the next day. Now the pros of being, an entrepreneur, I could wake up whatever time I want, but that's also a con in regards of I could wake up anytime I want. So if I want to have a lazy day, okay, cool. So I go to bed at 2, or I go to bed at 3, excuse me. I wake up at 11, let's just say, or 12. um and now I gotta, get up and motivate myself to figure out, okay, whether it's a list of things I gotta do, or me scheduling stuff in my calendar. But things got to get done, nonetheless. There's nobody kind of micromanaging you. There's no boss that's telling you what time to
Mhm.
clock in, what time to clock out. It's almost a 24-hour shift in regards of being an entrepreneur. And then there's other things, money management. You
Mhm.
got taxes that you also have to take into consideration.
Yuck, but yes.
Yeah, yeah. Beyond that, it's just you got to really be able to lock in, and especially if you want to be successful as a business owner. For a while, even my mom, she was like, "Are you really surviving off of DJing?" And I was like, "Yeah, I actually am." And it took her a while to, it took a while for her to, for it to sit in, but one time she called me, and she called me up and she was like, "Hey, DJ Hollywood." And that was the first time I ever heard her call me DJ
Oh,
Hollywood.
really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And from there, because she has me on Facebook, so that's what it is. So she sees more and more and more people kind of gravitating towards the movement and the brand. So she's just like, "Oh, wow." And, she sees me drop like some merch, and she's like, "Yo, like I want a hoodie," just little stuff like that. And me just realizing, okay, basically like that uh that aha moment for your parents, where they're like, "Oh,
Mhm.
okay, like you're doing something you love, you making money." Like I don't ask her for money anymore. Rarely do I, unless I'm like really in a pickle. But, I'm like, I get the opportunity to, give her some money sometimes, so that's, a super blessing on the entrepreneur tip. But yeah, it's definitely not for the weak. It's definitely not for the, and that's the thing too. Another thing is, uh it's okay to also be to not be a boss. You get what I'm saying? Because bo- more or less bosses need workers as well. Like people, there's elements to a team. Granted, there's only one quote unquote boss, but at the same time a boss is nothing without his workers, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Mhm.
Or a boss is as good as his workers
Right.
um are. So that's just something to keep in mind. Like you don't have to go into entrepreneurship, but even recently I just accepted having an assistant. Something like that is so key, because now if the assistant is out of tune, now that kind of like I have to tweak stuff on my level, because I got to get the stuff done that she was supposed to get done. And yeah, there's a job for everyone. I tell that to everybody, when especially when it comes to entrepreneurship. um when you see movies, there's multiple, when the credits roll, there's at least 50 plus people in the credits,
Yep.
and
Mhm.
everybody plays a pivotal role within that movie. So yeah, life's a movie, man. Go be your superstar.
I want to back up to what you said a moment ago. When I asked you about the entrepreneurship and what advice you have for the youth, and one of the first parts that you said, um, to reword it, I would say you have to plan and use wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you were talking about the fact that you took on a third gig for the day. You said, "I can fit this in. Okay, I can do it." So then you did it, and you were able to, you were able to succeed with that.
Right.
But even when it came, but in order for you to make that decision, you had to plan what the elements were around that decision.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pointing that out because sometimes, and not just teenagers, sometimes we get all excited. We want to go, yay, I like that idea. Let's do it. But then we don't think about the aftermath of that decision.
Right.
Okay, what does that mean if I take on this element? If I take on this assignment, if I take on this task, if I take on this whatever. I think in business, a lot of times we don't, not just in business, but sometimes in planning our lives. And as a teenager, you could be taking on too many clubs in the school, taking on too many extracurricular activities. You can
Right.
overwhelm yourself. We have to be wise in the decisions that we make. And that's what I heard from what you were just explaining about, what you went through yesterday.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
not yesterday, but Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. You definitely have to, you know, especially within entrepreneurship, things have to be well thought out. And the planning is definitely a key thing, because even with the event Saturday specifically, I had to, nothing was ready. So at the moment that the person reached out to me, nothing was ready. So I actually had to um crazy enough, let me explain this too. So the wedding wanted me to stay for an extra hour, but I already accepted the third gig from the person. So I was like, well, I can't push back the time there because it's just gonna mess things up. Granted, I was getting more money on the third gig than I would have made in the extra hour, which is why I made that decision as well. But
Okay.
um yeah, so I had to basically rush home now to, because it was a photo booth event. I had to rush home, design some type of template, because it was like a themed party. So I had to come home, design. This happened in probably about 20 minutes, and then I was out the
Oh,
door
wow.
again, which means I had to bring the photo booth and the photo booth's not light at all. So I had to bring the photo booth upstairs, get out the photos from the last event while editing the graphic for the third event, then export that to a USB, and then set up the design, basically set up the graphics. So event, call it, set up the event in the photo booth, and then get the photo booth back in the car, and then drive about 20 minutes to get to the event, and then quickly set up. So I was good to go for 12 to 2.
So, in other
So
words, you just made it sound like it was a real easy decision, but it was some work.
no, for sure, for sure. And I was very close to saying no, but like I said, I knew the benefits of, that was a space that I wanted to be in, because I knew, future clientele was also there, but also the person that reached out to me was a good friend of mine. So I was like, you know what? You're hitting me up at 7 p.m. for an event that's at 10, but I'll do you one
Wow.
favor, and I'll get there at 12 for you, and we could just do a 2-hour time frame, and people will get their pictures and everybody's happy. So
So you
yeah.
negotiated when given the offer.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's
Hmm.
definitely a thing within entrepreneurship. You know, it in general, you should always negotiate your worth. But specifically with entrepreneurship, Fat Joe said it best. He said, set your price and live your life, and
Hmm.
the people who
Yeah.
see the value in it, they'll pay it and then some. And the people who don't, you know,
They're just
charge
gonna
them,
take up
charge
your
them double
time.
when they come back.
Ah! They're just taking up your time and energy anyway. Let them walk away. But what I also hear is that you didn't sacrifice quality in your delivery. And I think that's so important because sometimes people say, "Oh yeah, I can do this. I can rush and do this," but then they give rushed quality.
Right.
And for what I just heard and what in the details you just gave, you didn't do that. You made sure that you had a theme set up. You made sure you took the old stuff out and that you still gave a professional presentation. Yes?
Right. No, and it's funny you say that, because that's exactly the thoughts in my head. I was like, because the photo booth has default like templates, for like the home screen and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
one of the things that I'm super big on with the photo booth is I tell people I can customize it to your event, and that
Yes,
comes with the
yes.
pricing. That comes
That
with the
means
pricing. I
something.
say I can customize it. You send me a logo, whatever it is, I'm gonna tailor it to your event. And yeah, yeah. And I knew at that moment in my head, I was thinking, I was like, is there any like default? Because it was a pink theme. So I was like, is there any default photo booth images that is pink? And I was like, you know what? And crazy enough, I have the app on my phone that I edit uh the photo booth templates with, and legit while the wedding's going on, I quickly like just like edit something in my phone real quick. Yeah, it was crazy. Oh my goodness, you cannot make this up. I literally edited something real quick, and then by the time I got home, I got to the computer and then fine tuned it. But yeah, it was crazy, man. It was crazy. But yeah, so much sacrifice as an entrepreneur that you got to make, and it comes with planning, preparation, and of course, last but not least, execution.
And discipline, because a
For
lot of
sure,
what you just said included discipline. And
for
that's
sure.
for all y'all. I don't care how old you are. This is for teens. I don't care how old you are. Do not expect success without discipline. They
Correct.
they're never separate. They are never ever separate. Well, DJ Hollywood, it has been awesome talking to you. And before we go, how can people find you?
Yes, a pleasure talking to you as well. Um, People can check me out on Instagram. That's kind of like where I'm mainly at. I post a lot on there. DJ Hollyw8d, the number 8D. So that's DJ Hollywood. Don't forget the 8. DJ Hollyw8d. You could check out More Music, Less Violence as well on Instagram. It's exactly how it sounds. More Music, Less Violence. We also got a website as well that we launched earlier this year, moremusiclessviolence.org. We'll be tweaking the website along, the upcoming months, leading into next year, because we have a lot of events that we're planning and a lot of collaborations we're planning. And yeah, you could also my website as well, djhollyw8d.com, if you want to hear any of my mixes and stuff. And on YouTube, if you want to see any of my interviews or the content I post during my gigs and stuff, that is It's More Than Music. All right, It's More Than Music. And Fatima, I
The
appreciate you.
DJ.
I appreciate you for having
Oh,
me.
no problem. The DJHollywood.com, is that spelled the normal way or with an 8?
No, it's never normal. It's never normal. It's DJ Hollywood. Don't forget
Has
the
to
8.
be special.
Yes. DJ Hollywood. Don't forget the 8, man. I literally looked it up on the internet and I see no other DJ Hollywood with the 8. And I think that was probably about 2016. I changed every single platform to reflect DJ Hollywood with the 8.
I like that because I'm like that. If everybody else is doing it, I got to find a way to be different.
Exactly.
So, well, it's been a pleasure having you on. And I hope that hopefully we've inspired some young entrepreneurs and some other youth to get more into music. I think we've accomplished both. And it's been
Yes.
really, really great having you.
Yes, I appreciate it as well. And good luck with the rest of the podcast and enjoy the rest of your 2023.
And now for a mind-shifting moment. Entrepreneurship is a beautiful thing. I hope you were just inspired by this story of his journey for his way of work. If you're considering entrepreneurship, I want you to remember some of the key elements that you heard in today's session. Solutions have to come from where you are. Don't expect everything to fit into a perfect little box, because it never will, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship. But most importantly, take whatever skills you have, however big and small, and make a difference in your community. That's bigger than anything else you can do. Thank you for listening to Mindshift Power Podcast. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel at The Mindshifter. If you have any comments, topic suggestions, or would like to be a guest on the show, please visit fatimabay.com/podcast. Remember, there's power in shifting your thinking. Tune in for next week.